It started with a vision for how the internet should work, how it could work.
It really should be possible for anyone to just kind of wave their hand and carve out a piece of cyberspace and create a world of their own.
But the technology to achieve such a vision simply did not exist.
There's no way that you can have really high throughput and also have all these security and fairness properties. I was able to convince myself it's not possible. And I set it aside, and it would come back and haunt me, and it would keep nagging at me. And so I would pick it up again and set it aside again, and this kept going for years.
3 years later, Lehman had a breakthrough, the Hashgraph consensus algorithm.
Wait a second. If we're all just talking to each other, and you include a tiny bit of extra information, we could each end up with a complete history of exactly how we talked to each other in what order. I would know so much that I could take one of those huge, impractical, impossible, too slow voting algorithms and do it with no votes at all. I know how you would vote, so don't bother voting. Don't tell me your vote, I know it. And it gives us this entire history. The history is called a hash graph.
In 2015, Mance and Lehman founded Swirls to battle test the algorithm in permissioned environments. And the following year, Lehman published the technical paper. Then in 2017, Hashgraph was introduced to the world.
We've just come out of stealth. Hashgraph is the future of blockchain tech.
But to realize a fairer, more secure digital future for all, where the internet belongs to you, the world needed a trust layer of the internet, a public ledger built on Hashgraph.
I'm pleased to introduce you to Hedera. It is a public Hashgraph network with a world-class governing council.
This is it. We are about to launch the Hedera mainnet and mint 50 billion H-bars. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right.
That's it. Congratulations.
Mainnet is live. We've just wrapped up our first 8-city global decentralized hackathon. This is called an H-bar. This is our symbol that we believe is going to change the world. We're very excited to be here in Seoul. I'm very proud to be able to announce the first set of council members.
We're talking about the Hedera consensus service. This is a new service. Okay, it looks like we are down to the final seconds here.
3, 2, 1. Open access.
The network is open. As of this moment, we have council member nodes online, ready to take transactions from anyone, anywhere in the world.
We saw exponential growth on the network, surpassing the daily transaction volume of Ethereum in just 9 months. We welcomed new council members and watched dozens of game-changing applications be deployed on Hedera. And last year, Hedera brought the token service to mainnet, enabling users to tokenize any asset. Hedera's council grew to 25 members, and they voted to fund the industry's largest ecosystem by far, with 20% of treasury, and establish the H-bar Foundation. Thank you for joining Hedera on this journey. Hello, future.
Nice. Thank you, Acti, for playing that. And we are waiting for our speaker, Cameron, to get into the chat. Once he arrives, I can unmute him. Oh, he's here. What's up, Cameron?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on, man? Welcome.
Yeah, happy to be here. Really excited to talk about Hedera today. Go into a couple of different topics, and yeah, hopefully we can teach a little bit about the network.
Sweet. Yeah, we met in person, and you seem like a super technical guy. So I've basically done research, prepared questions. You've seen the questions. It'll be more me asking you like maybe shorter questions and follow-up questions to your answers. And I want you to do more of the speaking, because I think that this will be a really educational segment for our audience members.
Sure, yeah.
I do want to give it maybe a couple more minutes just so people can trickle in, and then we can get started. Do you have any
Okay.
questions for me beforehand?
No, not really.
All right, cool.
Is there a time limit we have on this?
No, not really. I mean, just typically the AMAs go anywhere between 60 to 90 minutes, but this is more of an educational piece, a deep dive into a really robust and intricate network. So I think that I don't want us to feel rushed or anything like that.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Alrighty, I'm going to start the recording now. Good afternoon, Whale Coin Talk community. My name is Noah. I'm joined today by Cameron of the HBAR Foundation. If you haven't heard of Hedera before, they are a fully open source, public distributed ledger that utilizes fast, fair, and secure Hashgraph consensus. Cameron, I'm going to let you do most of the explaining here. Before we get started and dive into Hedera, do you want to give us a quick background of who you are and how you got to be in the crypto space today? Hello?
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Nice.
Yeah, my name's Cameron. I'm at the HBAR Foundation. I do developer relations currently. My journey into the crypto space kind of started with Polkadot and Ethereum in 2020. I have a sales background, so when I was coming into the crypto space, there was a lot of time during COVID where I was able to do a lot of research. And so I was really interested in diving a little bit deeper into smart contracts, and I was really intrigued by being able to manipulate these smart contracts in a way where you're able to send money, receive transactions, and make these arrangements through like the internet that I saw at the time, and it just seemed like a very novel concept, so I kept diving deeper into it. And then after a while, I was introduced to Polkadot after researching Ethereum smart contracts. The layer 0 design of Polkadot kind of really opened up my eyes to the larger world of crypto, and I didn't really realize there was so many different use cases and utilities. So then I started giving local cohort meetings and speeches in my town about Polkadot, and I was hosting these meetups. And then after a while, I got picked up by Edgeware, which is a substrate-based blockchain in the Polkadot ecosystem. So I was doing EVM and WASM tutorials, documentation on how to deploy on that environment, and also running substrate nodes and being able to work within the substrate environment. And then I did that for about a year, and then I slowly transitioned to trying to build out my own DAO and kind of experiencing that. And then that kind of fizzled out, and then I got picked up by the foundation. So I've been at Hedera for about 4 months.
Beautiful. And Cameron, let's start with having you explain what the difference is, because Hedera isn't technically a blockchain, right? So what is the difference between Hashgraph and a blockchain?
Yeah, so basically, Hedera is a fully open source public distributed ledger. And what it does is it utilizes the fast and fair Hashgraph consensus mechanism. So essentially, the Hashgraph consensus mechanism enables Hedera to be as efficient as it is. So it's not a blockchain, but it's considered a distributed ledger technology as well as blockchains. And because of the design of Hashgraph, we're able to achieve a very high throughput and really low fees that are fixed in US dollars. So it's really good for enterprise grade or anyone looking to have a lot of transactions on chain at a very low cost. So yeah.
Beautiful. And can you tell us from a high level how the Hashgraph consensus algorithm actually works?
Yeah, so the Hashgraph consensus algorithm is composed of a couple different things. So really what it comes down to is the the way that information is sent between nodes on the network. So it comes down to what is known as the gossip-to-gossip protocol. And the gossip-to-gossip protocol is really a node receiving information on chain and then relaying that information to another node arbitrarily, and then that node arbitrarily sending that information to another node. And in doing so, you're able to relay a transaction throughout the entire network and reach all nodes as quickly as possible, as mathematically efficient as possible. And this is what is known as the virtual voting. And virtual voting is embedded within the gossip protocol. And virtual voting essentially means you know everything about the vote itself without having to actually use resources to get to that vote like you would on a Ethereum or a traditional proof of stake network. And cutting out those resources necessary to reach finality of that result to understand what that vote would be. You are saving tons and tons of resources, and that's kind of how you're able to get those really high throughputs and really low fees.
And give us a breakdown of, and I'm not going to try to pronounce this whole thing, but what the ABFT means with respect to the Hashgraph algorithm.
Yeah, so ABFT is asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant, or fault tolerant. And essentially the Hashgraph algorithm is asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant. And this is essentially a technical term that means that no single code or small group of nodes would be able to prevent the network from reaching consensus, nor would they be able to change the consensus once it has been reached. So each Hedera node will eventually reach a point where it knows that the network has reached consensus. And blockchains do not have a guarantee of Byzantine agreement because the node never reaches certainty that agreement has ever been achieved. So rather, there's just a probability that that increases over time for those blockchains. Blockchain is also non-Byzantine, Byzantine because it does not automatically deal with network partitions. Basically, if a group of miners is isolated from the rest of the internet, multiple chains, forks could grow that conflict with each other in the order of transactions, which does not occur on Hedera.
You mentioned virtual voting just a minute ago. Can you dive a bit deeper into what that is, how that works, and also explain what gossip to gossip is? Are those the same thing, or are they entirely different?
Yeah, so they're essentially the same thing. And so virtual voting essentially is achieved through the gossip to gossip protocol. And so it's basically what virtual voting is it's not enough to ensure that every member knows every event. And most Byzantine fault tolerance protocols, without a leader, depend on members sending each other votes. So the peer voting approach becomes bandwidth prohibitive and impractical in a network of any significant size. So basically, the Hashgraph algorithm implements voting that achieves the same fair and secure properties, but it's also very fast and practical. That's essentially what virtual voting is. And the Hashgraph algorithm does not require any votes to be sent across the network to calculate the votes of each member. Members can actually calculate every other member's vote by internally looking at each of their copies of the Hashgraph and applying the virtual voting algorithm. And then votes are calculated locally as a function of the ancestors of a given event that are recorded as hashes in the network history. So the virtual voting has a couple of benefits. So in addition to saving bandwidth, it ensures that members always calculate their votes according to rules. So for example, if Alice is honest, she'll calculate virtual votes for the virtual Bob that are honest. And even if the real Bob is a cheater, he cannot attack Alice by making the virtual Bob vote incorrectly. And this happens in 3 steps. There's divide rounds, decide fame, and find order. And that gets a little bit more into the technical side of how that would work, if we want to dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, I think that giving us the hypothetical example definitely helps paint a picture. And if you wanted to kind of take that and run with it and get a bit more technical, that'd be great.
Okay. So I can touch a little bit on each because it gets like really
just super high level.
Yeah. So essentially these 3 steps happen. So there's the divine rounds. So you needed to define the rounds and witnesses. So In Hashgraph history, the first event for members nodes is that is the node's first witness. So the first witness at the beginning of the first round are for that node, and all subsequent events are part of that first round until a new witness is discovered. And then after all of that has been achieved in that dividing round, there's actually an algorithm that follows that. So I can't really, I can't really show that. I'm not sure how I'd show that. Do we want to like share the screen or something?
Yeah, no worries. I mean, if you wanted to share the screen, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. I'll probably just go on to the next one, and then we can probably jump on the next subject. This is getting a little
it's all good. It's all good. We can keep it.
There's deciding fame and then fine order. I can give you a link as well for anyone interested in looking more into this, because it might not be the best use of our time to really dive into the virtual voting itself too deep.
Yeah, certainly. If you share any links with me, I can throw them into the main chat. So moving on, Cameron, what are some advantages to having every container of a transaction incorporated into the ledger versus in a blockchain where the network chooses one chain and discards the others?
Right. So basically, in Hashgraph, all the containers of transactions are incorporated into the ledger, so none are discarded. So this is essentially more efficient than blockchains in the sense that all the branches continue to exist forever, with all being woven into the single whole. And furthermore, blockchains fail if the new containers arrive too quickly. And because the new branches are essentially being sprouted faster than they can be pruned. And this is why blockchain needs proof of work or some other mechanism so that it can artificially slow down this growth. While in Hashgraph, nothing is thrown away, so there's no harm in the Hashgraph data structure growing quickly, and every member can create transactions and containers whenever they want. And because Hashgraph does not require pruning of would-be forks, as every container is incorporated into the ledger, Hashgraph enables more powerful mathematical guarantees such as Byzantine agreement and fairness. Distributed databases such as Paxos are Byzantine, but they don't guarantee fairness in the ordering of transactions. And blockchain is also neither Byzantine nor fair. And Hashgraph accomplishes being fair, fast, Byzantine, ACID compliant, efficient, and inexpensive, time-stamped, and DOS resistant as a result of this architecture.
So it makes for a more robust and transparent network, in short.
Correct.
So one thing I noticed was that an HBAR address looks different from a normal cryptocurrency address. And when I dove a bit deeper, the answer I found was a bit interesting, but I'm going to let you explain it. Tell us about an account ID and kind of what that is versus the entire HBAR address and how that behaves with respect to the public and private key and the account ID coming together.
Yeah, so account IDs are used to reference specific accounts and transactions and queries on Hedera. And Hedera has account IDs with the format XYZ or 0, or essentially an ID number for that X, Y, and Z, where X represents the shard number. So it's 0 today as Hedera only performs in one shard. The Y represents the realm number, which is also 0 as realms are not yet supported. And then there is the Z, which represents the account number, and the equivalent of a human-friendly public key.
And how does the ID model enable users to have more decentralized control over their accounts? And also, what is the advantage of a separation between the account ID and public and private key pair?
Yeah, so this essentially enables you to use different services in different use cases, because Hedera is split up into consensus service, the Hedera token service, as well as the smart contract service. And so you can make use for testing this on mainnet as well as the testnet with those separate pairs.
Can you give us an example of how this allows for native multi-signature capabilities?
Yeah.
And kind of like what that means for businesses and the enterprise space.
Sure, one moment. This is loading.
Yeah, take your time. And I can say this is probably one of the most, if not the most, technical project that we've had on our podium. So it's definitely a learning curve for a lot of our listeners.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm having.
No worries at all, man. Take your time. And audience members, if you're more curious about Hedera, I would suggest going to their website. They, relative to a lot of other websites and white papers that I've researched, they're very thorough in explaining each component, individual component of their ecosystem, and kind of from an theoretical side and also from a very technical side. And they also do a great job of bringing it all together and explaining how how all those components coexist.
Yeah, for some reason I can't log into the document. It log me out. One second. For some reason it's giving me an issue right now on my Gmail, or my Google rather.
And I think that Cameron might be having some technical difficulties on his side, so just hang tight.
All right, I'm logged back in. Okay, all right, so I'm back. Okay, so what? Sorry, where were we at again?
Hey, Cameron, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Yeah, where were we at?
Yeah, so I was just basically asking, because I thought that I found the separation of account ID and public and private key pair to be interesting because from my research, it allows the individual to keep their account ID the same, but change their public and private key pair if something were to happen and they would have, been compromised or lost it. That way that, let's say like me, Noah, everyone knows me by a certain account ID, but, and I want to keep my identity the same, my public facing identity the same, but I have to change my private key pair. This would allow me to do just that. And I was curious to know more about why, how this can allow for native multi-signature capabilities, and also how that benefits businesses and enterprises.
So I was going to have Brandon on as well. This would be a better question for him. I'm not sure if he's in the audience.
Brandon, yeah, I see you. Oh, Brandon has his hand up. I got you, Brandon. What's going on? And Brandon, you might have to unmute yourself after I call on you. So there you go.
How's it going?
Hey, what's going on, Brandon?
Yeah, so I do some community outreach for the HBAR Foundation. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. But either way, as far as the account numbers, I'm not overly technical as far as the account numbers, but from what I've seen, we have the account numbers as Cameron has explained. It's 0.0.1234 or whatever it is, and that's your public facing key, and that anybody can send you HBAR, the cryptocurrency, or any tokens that are built on top of Hedera using that account number. Or even going now where we have smart addresses and things like that are being developed by Web 2.3, so you can have like .hbar domains, and that actually can be your public facing account number that people can send things to. As far as switching your public and private keys, that can be done on the back end. The only place where I've seen it done on a fairly regular basis is with wallets. So if you're switching from one wallet to another and you're importing an account, they may actually change your public and private keys on the back end. But like you said, you keep that account number 0.0.1234 or something along those lines. So it is something that you have to be careful when you are switching from one wallet to another and things like that. But it does make things a lot easier as far as transferring cryptocurrency and things like that back and forth.
Beautiful. Thank you for that breakdown, Brandon. And definitely feel free to chime in and tag team this AMA at any point, gentlemen. More the merrier. I wanted to start talking about practical use cases, everyday use cases for not just, I mean, for Hashgraph, obviously, but Hedera specifically. So what are some real world use cases of,
Sure.
I know I read about COVID supply chain tracements.
It was in the UK, they were actually tracking the temperature of COVID vaccines. It was something that nurses would have to go in on a regular basis and check the temperatures of these COVID vaccines to make sure that they were at the proper temperature. And that was all automated. And of course, it's tracked on the Hashgraph. But it goes a lot further than that. We have applications in the gaming space. We have applications like Atma.io for supply chain tracking. This is something that's been integrated with one of our council members. It's a Fortune 500 company called Avery Dennison. And they're going to be tracking literally billions of items throughout the world as they're shipped across the supply chain. And as far as the fees that could be generated for the Hedera network, it could be pretty impressive. Now, they've integrated it. It's actually going to be this month when we actually start to see those transactions hit the Hedera network. So everybody in the Hedera community is pretty excited about it, to see some of these enterprise level mission critical applications start to hit the Hedera network. We also have something that's going to be coming hopefully before the end of the year. The standard for US coupons is changing. It's going to be under something called the Coupon Bureau, and they essentially set what the standards are. They're a standard setting body, and it's going to be the new standard, as I said, for the United States. And there's going to be the initial users of this are going to be things like Procter & Gamble and Target and places like that. So that should start to ramp up here before too long as well. It can be frustrating because we hear about these things early on in many cases, but enterprises can take a long time to bring these things to market. So that's what we've been waiting on for the past few years. But a lot of that work that's been done on the back end is going to start to come to fruition now.
Beautiful. And Brandon, I was going to ask this question later, but you mentioned gaming. How big is the crypto gaming community on Hedera? And are there any major crypto games currently being built out or already completed?
Yeah, so again, it's starting to be built out. There are things, basic games like Slime World and things like that that are being have already been built on Hedera. What's more exciting is the things that are coming down the pike. So we have one of the Hedera council members is Ubisoft, so one of the largest gaming companies in the world, and they have an incubator as far as building on Hedera, and there's going to be things coming down the pike. The other thing that just came out in the past few weeks is PlayStation alums, some of the leaders from PlayStation, started their own business called Lithos. It was just announced, and they are going to be a AAA gaming company, and they're building a new game called Ashfall. You can check it out. You can just look up Lithos, Liithos. And the game is Ashfall. They were responsible for all kinds of the biggest games at PlayStation. So it's something to certainly look at. Reality Plus is another gaming company. Vavel is another gaming company that's building on Hedera. And we just had one announced, Dropper, and they're more of like an incubator for gamers to build their games. So yeah, it's growing fairly quickly.
Love to hear that. And you did mention that there are other exciting new dApps that are coming up on Hedera. Anything notable that we should make note of?
I wanted to add as well. There was also.
Go ahead, Cameron. I'll let you go. Take it.
Yeah, for the gaming side, we also secured a grant for Wizards, and they're coming from Ethereum. So they're going to be migrating a lot of their assets over to our smart contract service. And then they're going to expand into the Hedera ecosystem by providing additional utility with the Hedera token service.
Awesome. Guys, how lucrative is the DeFi economy on Hedera, and are there any popular yield farming opportunities that we can explore?
Yeah, so the first things that were built out are, of course, the wallets. I would suggest people go check out Hashpack, Walla Wallet, Blade Wallet. And now we are just starting to get to the point where DeFi is starting to explode. The first thing that was done was something, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but Stater staking, and they do a liquid staking using the HBAR. And I think HBAR is the largest one that they have right now. They were doing it for Terra Luna, and of course that has gone down. So the number 2 has moved into the number 1 spot. But that's been going for a while. And right now, if you go to Hedera, I think /Stater, you can take a look. We have over 500 billion HBAR total value locked on there, and the APY is up around 40%. Now that's only going to be until the end of this month. This has been going on for a couple months, and then they're going to have to reevaluate and see where we are. The whole point of liquid staking is you send your HBAR to their smart contract. They send you back an HTS, Hedera Token Service token, which is HBAR-X. And that accrues these rewards. Right now, those rewards are being backstopped or paid for by the HBAR Foundation. But when we have native staking on Hedera, you're going to get those rewards as well. And then you're going to be able to take those to DeFi platforms and pretty much double dip, right? So you're getting those rewards from HBAR-X, and then you're going to be able to provide liquidity pairs, as you mentioned, USDC and HBAR-X, or HBAR and HBAR-X, and pretty much get those yields as well. Now, we have, I think, about half a dozen different DeFi platforms. Only one has launched so far. It's called Tangent. But in the next couple of weeks, we have one that we've been looking forward to, Saucer Swap. That should be going live as well. And then I know there's a few working in the background, HBAR Suite. And then we have some big ones that I know that are going to be coming down the line, but they're still in stealth mode.
Gentlemen, I wanted to circle back and talk some technicals again. We did cover ABFT, and I understand that it is known mathematically as the highest possible level of security for distributed systems. I wanted to know what's an example of an attack that might compromise a traditional blockchain that otherwise would not compromise the Hedera ecosystem because of this security measure.
I'm sorry, guys. I do want to give you a heads up. I have to jump off. I would like to do this again sometime, but Cameron's going to have to take that next one.
Beautiful.
Yeah, dive deeper in this. So basically, in like traditional leader-based systems, the leader is at basically susceptible to being DDoSed. And when you're looking at something like a leader-based system, that's not the case on Hedera. So and that kind of goes into the virtual voting that I had mentioned earlier, and the structure of that that ties into what makes that able to be resilient in that regard.
Beautiful. Cameron, what are the main Hedera, or excuse me, what are the main Hedera supported and community maintained SDKs?
Yeah, so currently we have Java, JavaScript, and Go, which are our main supported SDKs. And then for our smart contract, it's Solidity, and we use the Hyperledger base EVM for our EVM compatibility layer.
And I'm glad you mentioned the Bisu EVM compatibility layer. Is it as seamless to bridge over funds and projects as it would be, let's say, the Avalanche C chain or Polygon?
Yeah, currently you can bridge over your assets, and it's really the same. It takes the same exact compilation to turn it into bytecode, and it'll process it the exact same way. Is there a popular bridge or a bridge that you guys have built that allows people to do this? Currently at this so currently we have Hashport, which is our interoperability protocol, which is enabling assets to travel between Ethereum, Polygon, and I believe they're adding support this week for a couple other tokens. But Hashport essentially is what we're kind of using to tap into the DeFi ecosystem as well, because once Hashport is able to go live with like SaucerSwap, you'll essentially be able to take hopefully HTS tokens, which are native to Hedera, and then swap them with smart contract tokens. And then we'll be able to take advantage of the high throughput and low fees of native Hedera. And then you can use those to create liquidity pairs to tap into other ecosystems and still use Hedera as well.
Oh, sweet. So that answers my question I had later on about whether or not Hedera, 'cause from what I understand currently, Hedera is mainly bought and traded on centralized exchanges. And so this would give us the opportunity, or give Hedera the opportunity, to kind of have a wrapped version of their token and provide liquidity on popular decentralized exchanges like Uniswap and Trader Joe on other chains like Ethereum and Avalanche. Correct?
Right. And we currently have a JSON RPC relay that's working with a demo. So then you'll be able to log in a MetaMask and access your HBAR that way, kind of like with a emulated HBAR environment. But there's been some controversy as to whether we should continue with this, because then you need 2 pairs for the Ethereum address and then for the your Hedera address. So we're still working out that and how that would look, and we're taking community feedback as well.
Got it. And if everything goes smoothly, is there a chance that Hedera, takes measures to attract popular DeFi applications like Aave, Uniswap, and Curve to migrate over?
We're actually in the talks with a lot of these different decentralized applications. We're looking at different ways that we can quickly get into their these pools and these different liquidity pools on Ethereum and on these different environments. We're working with Polkadot as well. So everything's kind of in just moving forward right now. The HBAR Foundation has, I believe our fund is 150 million for our DeFi. And so that essentially has been rolling out this year. So a lot of the big announcements are actually going to be coming around over the next couple of months, because the grants that have been allocated towards these participants was last month, a couple of months ago. So the actual products that they're going to be releasing on Hedera and compatibilities will be within the next couple of months.
Very exciting, and I love the slow and steady point of departure. I don't think that you guys need to rush anything. So I wanted to shift gears here, Cameron, and ask about Hedera Network's carbon negativity. I do understand that you guys are carbon negative, and I'm curious to know why that is such a critical attribute to attracting future builders of Web3.
Yeah, so we take a lot of pride in the network being sustainable, because we want to really emphasize the energy that is being used by a lot of blockchains today, and how sustainable it would look over a long term when you have when you're trying to get all these different enterprises on chain, and you're trying to get thousands of transactions through every day, all day, and it's like, when we're talking about how sustainable our network is already, we're able to then kind of go a little bit further and make initiatives such as Dovu, where we have carbon offsets through carbon credits. So we've partnered with like Dovu, and then Timals does, so they do carbon offsets in the Hedera ecosystem. And then we also have Timals, who utilizes the Hedera network consensus service as a means of verifying sugarcane waste that has been turned into pellets as a reusable resource. So that the process of that conversion from the waste into the pellets is recorded and verified as a verifiable reduced emission on the consensus service on Hedera. And because of that, we're able to say that we are carbon negative, because we're leveraging Hedera as a means of helping the world instead of using excess resources.
So, I mean, just from that, it sounds to me like climate change is quite important to the HBAR Foundation, and they are going to be continuing to use funds in order to provide incentives for building projects in a sustainable way. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yeah, so we actually have a sustainable impact fund, which I believe is either like 100 million, 150 million, which we have 4 funds in the HBAR Foundation. So that's one of them. And that is solely dedicated to basically picking out projects that are going to be a sustainable mover moving forward, and projects that are going to continue to help us be carbon negative and continue to provide, positive, sustainable benefits from Hedera just in general. So that is an initiative that we have moving forward.
Awesome. And one more question on this topic. I read somewhere that Hedera is actually more energy efficient than on a per transaction basis than networks like Visa. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Wow. Okay, well, so moving on, Cameron, can you give us a quick background? We talked about this slightly, but can you give us a quick breakdown of the Hedera consensus service, its advantages, and some practical use cases?
Yeah, so the Hedera consensus service is really like verifiable timestamps. So it's really using the Hedera Hashgraph, the fundamentals of it, and hashing those transactions. And really just taking the recording of when they get recorded on the ledger itself. So it's really not much more than that. And what it is enterprises and industry use this a lot because they say for supply chain management purposes, you want to be able to track something along the supply chain. We're able to quickly annotate that inside of the ledger, inside of our immutable ledger using Hashgraph, and it's ultra efficient in the sense that you're just getting that hash, and that's all you really need, and it's recorded into the ledger itself. So you're just recording that event within that transaction of at any given moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And just high level, but slightly under the hood, how is encrypting message contents with Hashgraph different relative to blockchains like Mina, for example, that utilize ZK rollups?
Sorry, could you rephrase the question just a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'm trying to understand the kind of what tech is used to encrypt message contents with Hashgraph, and how that is different from, let's say, a blockchain like Mina that utilizes ZK rollups. And it's more of like a nerdy question from my end. It's not really something we need to dive too deep into, because I definitely want to be cognizant of your time, and I have a lot more questions about kind of the token service and the governing council. So if you'd like to move on, we certainly can.
Yeah, so with the Hedera consensus service, so it's really a service that's built for speed and security while having ordered and verifiable timestamps. That's really the main purpose of it. It's kept on the ledger while the storage is kept off ledger.
Got it.
So yeah, so I personally, I haven't done too much development on the consensus service because my time has been spent with the token service and the smart contract service. So I might be able to get you a better answer. But yeah, that's basically the simplest that I've gone into it so far.
That's just what I was looking for, man. Thank you. And Cameron, moving on to the Hedera token service, can you explain from a high level why it's so lucrative?
Yeah, so the Hedera token service, this is what enables the high scalability and really low fees for using Hedera. So this is really the main, the pinnacle of Hedera at the moment. So you're able to deploy your fungible, non-fungible assets in Java, JavaScript, or Go. So those 3 SDKs, and then you're utilizing the very high TPS and low fixed fees of Hedera native network. So this is This would be the alternative option to using the smart contract service on Hedera, which is effectively is a layer 2 scaling solution for Ethereum mainnet, because we're able to keep transactions around 300 to 400 TPS, and also keep the fees low as well. So yeah, it's really just using the Hedera native service to get the most performing and efficient use out of Hedera when deploying digital assets.
Got it. And how do you guys keep transactions always fixed at a 0.001 USD worth of HBAR?
Yeah, so this is an initiative led by the foundation, as well as the governing council. So basically, a certain amount of HBAR has been allocated for the use of gas fees. So when gas fees, essentially, if they were to spike at any given time, which they're already so low that this rarely happens, then any additional fees needed to compensate for those gas fees will just be basically fronted from Hedera.
And just some like high level examples of how the token service delivers flexibility for account KYC and freeze, token supply management, and integrated of minted tokens into a Solidity smart contract. If you wanted to cover any of those topics, or maybe just a few of them.
All right, so one more time, you cut off on the end.
Yeah, no worries. So with respect to the Hedera token service, just wanted to see if you could give us some examples of how it delivers flexibility for like account KYC, token supply management, and maybe like integration of minted tokens into a Solidity smart contract.
Sure. Yeah. So there's basically a couple of, like, you're asking for like the process of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's a couple of guides that would probably be better, because this gets more into actually coding with our tutorials. So if you're using the token service and you want to use it with the smart contracts service, you can do so you can use them. We have a couple of services that actually use both at the same time. Saucer Swap being one of them, where they're trying to, use the token service to, if you were trying to create native assets that are very, very efficient, and then you want to essentially also create smart contracts, but you want to be able to get the liquidity of your Hedera token into maybe Ethereum, then the service like that would exist to have two in place, so that you'd be able to swap with a ERC20 token, and then have that token be accessible via the same platform on like Saucer Swap. So that's why you would have like two in the same sense there. I'm not sure if I'm really answering the question.
Yeah, it's crystal clear, actually. Thank you for that explanation. And Cameron, really quick, as far as the HBAR tokenomics are considered, what's the maximum supply? And apart from gas fees and liquidity mining opportunities, what other utilities does the token provide with respect to the overall ecosystem?
Yeah, so currently the circulating supply, I believe it's around like 21 billion, with the max being at 50 billion. And then, so basically the HBAR token is used to secure the network. It is used for fees. And then it is also, used when you're dealing with certain applications, to whether it is gamified or you're using it as an in-game asset. It can be used as a regular asset as well, the HBAR asset. So it can be used essentially as network fuel, network protection, and then it can also be used to power decentralized applications inside of Hedera.
Awesome. I wanted to start talking about the Hedera Governing Council and its multi-member LLC. I think it's super interesting. I'm under the impression that you guys have 39 leading global organizations. How were these organizations chosen to be part of the council? What are the requirements? And who are some of they? I think you mentioned Ubisoft earlier. Brandon did, at least.
Yeah, so there's basically there is I believe it's 39 capable or potential members that can join And currently there's like Avery Dennison, Google, Boeing, Chainlink, IBM, Ubisoft, Deutsche Telekom, and that's just to name a few. But all of these companies essentially have governance over the direction of the network, because they are the ones that verify the transactions on the network. They also approve the Hedera improvement proposals that go through. So any of the Hedera improvement proposals that are being submitted, so for example, like the JSON RPC relay, or the inclusion to add blocks to Hedera as a way to interact with Hedera in a more accessible way for people that may be wanting to interact from like Ethereum or other blockchain interfaces. That all goes through the governing council. And to become a governing council member, it's really a process of, so that's more of a reaching out to Hedera and like applying. And then you have to set up a physical node has to be set up for that governing council member. And it's usually a fairly long process, which is has quite a few requirements to be accepted. And then all the governing council members are spread across, they're going to be spread across every region and time zone. And then we're going to eventually have a community node model where we're going to be adding community nodes that are going to also be validating transactions alongside the governing council members. And then that's going to be around the same time that proxy staking will be available as well.
So as of now, the only nodes being ran are by the council members, or not even that?
Right. Yeah, it's all just the council members right now.
Got it. And are those number of seats, that 39 cap, is that expected to be expanded at some point in the future?
No, because that 39 cap is in place so that it's across every region and time zone. So that number will eventually be filled to eventually reach that goal. Right now it sits at 26.
And what are some common things that are voted on, and how much weight does each vote carry?
Yeah, so I mean, they all carry an equal vote. It's usually just the improvement proposals, or if there is an emergency proposal, like if something on the network is going wrong, or if something that needs to be updated really quickly, those types of things, they can quickly come to vote on those. But it's mostly the proposals that are coming in from the hips.hedera.com. And these are really just, these can range from core protocol changes to applications, frameworks, protocols being built on top of the network. And those are all go through the governing council. And then once those are approved, then we can begin to execute on those. And then the Sword's Labs team will do their thing. And then we usually get those integrated in a fairly timely fashion.
So playing devil's advocate real quick here, how decentralized is Hedera really if there are only 39 players making all the decisions?
So basically the idea for these governing council members is they're picked with the understanding that they're high reputable players, and the odds of having a bad actor amongst the 39 potential governing council members that are of this capacity is unlikely, knowing that for them to do something that would put that company in jeopardy, it's not necessarily likely. And then also that would have to be coordinated among those companies as well, for any type of malicious activity to potentially occur if it were going to. But that's really the main argument. And a lot of chains currently that are centralized or that are considered decentralized are technically can be said that they're centralized under a small set of teams that are able to either shut down the network, control the network, or fork or upgrade it at any given moment. And in terms of regulatory and compliance concerns with like government, it's hard to get any type of regulatory compliance, knowing that the chain has that ability to be changed at like a given moment under certain teams. So that's really the idea of having the governing council now, is so that we can establish a very strong foundation as far as who's going to be validating the transactions on the network, and making sure that's sustainable, so that over time we can slowly switch to a decentralized model.
Beautiful. And when that happens, are there going to be as strict of requirements for the average person to run a Hedera node?
Yeah, no, it's going to be, we're going to basically come out with guidelines and a full array of things to reference when looking to potentially run a community node. Currently, we have a lot of people reaching out via grants that might be interested in running nodes in different parts of the world, And the ultimate goal is to enable the shared world concept, which is what this world's name really means, and that's to enable anyone to create their own kind of decentralized plot of land or area that they can work within, call it a metaverse environment, if you will, and then anyone is able to interact with any other metaverse environment or land or digital any digital identity through this shared worlds concept. And that's kind of what Hedera's long-term vision is. So like kind of, a decentralized internet or trust layer of the internet, if you will.
Yeah, that's a really new and unique way of going about it. It leads me to my next question. One, can you explain what a public permissionless network is for our audience members that might not know? And why Hedera chose to start out as a public permissioned network?
Yeah, so basically, with it being public, anyone can access the network. Anyone has the ability to build on top of the network. Permission being that it would. So for a certain amount of time, it was permission, meaning only a certain amount of people had access to what could be like upgraded, as far as like the code base and everything. And now this is all being permissionless. So you don't really have to have the certain requirements necessary to build on top of Hedera anymore, or upgrade, or contribute to it. And I guess that kind of ties into the previous points where they were trying to really make sure that the network evolved in a way that was very regulatory compliant, and that they weren't kind of biting off more than they could chew. So they were trying to set it up in a way where they had a couple of services that started with like the file service, consensus service, and the token service. And as certain demands began to grow, they knew that new basically services could be built on top of Hashgraph. So I think they were just trying to start with a very grassroots kind of strong foundation, and slowly taking a very safe and meticulous approach as new trends and things have emerged.
So slightly off topic, but I was curious because I couldn't think of any. Do you know an example of a network that is the opposite, private and permissioned?
Probably a good example might be like Corda. I believe they are both private and permission. So you'll see a lot of time private and permission chains that exist in enterprise, because they're being used among a set group of entities that are using it for a very specific purpose, or a set of purposes that have a certain set of APIs or something that you have to pay for a suite to use. So that's usually where you'd see that.
Cameron, how important is community feedback and lessons for Hedera? And can anyone just go on and propose an HIP?
Yeah, anyone can make a Hedera improvement proposal at hips.hedera.com. Community and feedback is extremely important for us, because everything we're trying to do is built on the community, and we want the community to really be shaping the next chapter of where Hedera goes. We've solidified a very strong roster of enterprise partners and people, governing council members, using the consensus service. And as we're looking forward, we want to kind of tap in more into this DeFi world and the blockchain interoperability. So the community feedback right now, especially, is super important to know like how the community views Hedera and what's really important to the fundamentals of people that are looking to build on Hedera, and not making sure that we're getting too far, spreading ourselves too thin as far as the use cases we offer in comparison to other layer ones that are available.
Who are some of Hedera's notable partners?
As like on the governing council?
On the governing council, and just, enterprises that everyone here might know of that you guys would be partnered with.
Yeah, our big one was IBM. So IBM has a lot of the development team from Worlds came from IBM. We use a lot of IBM's technology on Hedera. Boeing's another big one. They are a huge advocate for our supply chain, our consensus service, and their long-term goal. Google, Chainlink Labs. We've also partnered with Filecoin, and we use IPFS.
Yeah, those are some big ones. Those are some big ones. And are there other popular applications currently being deployed on Hedera by startups and Fortune 500 companies?
Yeah, so there's like I'm not sure which ones would exactly be Fortune 500. I'm sure there's quite a few, but like I can give you a couple of examples here.
Yeah, right on.
One moment. But to give you a couple of like use cases, like there's payments, fraud mitigation, data compliance, healthcare, gaming, enterprise, identity, tokenized assets. So I mean, we have all sorts of different companies looking at us right now currently, and that are in the talks as well about using the smart contract service, just because that's what a lot of these companies are kind of looking at right now while looking at Ethereum and different ways that they can get into the Ethereum space. But they know that a lot of the use case right now exists on Ethereum as like NFTs or things that are the gas use on Ethereum just isn't realistic right now. So a lot of these companies have been coming to Hedera because they see that we're enabling the same type of solution, but we're giving them a cheaper cost and an easier development or production, because not only is it in fixed costs, but it's a higher throughput, and then they also have the ability of appending different services from Hedera if they choose to do so. Hold on, this just loaded here.
Sure.
Do you know ServiceNow?
No, I've never heard of them.
So ServiceNow, basically they service, I believe, a lot of the Fortune 500 companies, and they are building on Hedera currently. They're partnered with us, so they use their cloud-based platform, the Now platform, that delivers digital workflows that create great experiences and like productivity for enterprise. We have Avery Dennison at Atma.io, which is a service that they have built. We also have, I'm missing out one that I have in the back of my head and I can't find it.
It's all good though, Cam. You've listed quite a few for us, and I mean, these are some big names. You guys have some big players building on your ecosystem. You mentioned NFTs briefly, and I was curious to know, NFTs are all the rage still in this bear market, and I think they're going to continue to be all the rage for the next 5 years or even more. I mean, the practical use cases have yet to be seen. I would like to know what excites the HBAR Foundation about the NFT space, and what are some of these community-driven projects on Hedera called?
Yeah,
I know Sufu and Bentley, but what else is there?
Right. Yeah. So we have a very large NFT ecosystem that is basically that have just sprouted from the community. So we've provided all the tools and resources necessary, and the community has definitely come a long way over the last like 5 months. So a couple of the marketplaces that we have are like Hash Access, Zeus Market, and Turtle Moon Launchpad. And then the wallet that you can use is Hashpack, which is essentially like the MetaMask for Hedera. And on Hedera, say for example, you wanted to release a 10,000 mint NFT collection on Hedera, it'd be 76.80, which is fixed that price always. And you would find that to do the same on Solana, it'd be around $1,600. Tezos is around 2,000. Algorand is around 657. Avalanche at 682. So you're gonna not only are you gonna get the lowest carbon footprint, you're gonna get the cheapest costs. And the community is really big right now, really growing. We have tons of utilities on the way over the next couple of months. Like I said, there's already wallets and marketplaces you can use, so lots to see there. And if you want to go to hedera.com/NFT, there's more information as well.
Awesome, and I'll share that in the main chat because I know we have a big NFT community here at Whalecoin Talk. Cameron, I wanted to talk about the Hedera Foundation a bit more, and kind of what strategies they're using to drive awareness, adoption, and growth of your mainnet and ecosystem.
Yeah, so basically we have 4 funds, like I had mentioned. So we have a sustainability fund, metaverse fund, crypto economy fund, and a payment/fintech fund. In total, our fund right now is around $2 billion. And we are essentially allocating this money very strategically in ways where we're stimulating certain areas of the ecosystem on Hedera that we have either heard community feedback from, like we'd like to see more of, or we've noticed ourselves like this would be really beneficial. We've seen this on other competing layer ones, and we definitely should allocate some assets and some resources here to make sure that we're not falling behind. So a lot of it comes down to just metrics, feedback, and yeah, I guess those would be the two biggest factors.
Yeah, right on. And what are some main areas you anticipate a lot of adoption for Hedera?
I see gaming being one of the biggest, to be honest, because I think that with gaming being on the horizon for Web3, and I see it becoming a massive thing, especially with AAA titles that might be able. I already see like 2K doing this, where you're able to essentially work in the game and earn assets by playing the game. That will be able to be facilitated on Hedera very realistically, because you don't want to have a system where you're paying to be able to pay your users, because that's kind of redundant. So you want to have it being very, very cheap, so you're able to reward your users without having to deal with those that overhead on the services side. So and you also want that to be scalable as well. So not only are we able to provide these metaverse environments where you're going to be getting these low costs, it's going to scale, and it's going to be able to support hundreds of thousands of players on these servers. So it'll be really interesting to see how that begins to unfold over the next year with a couple of our AAA titles that are onboarding.
Yeah, I think we both agree on this. NFTs and gaming are likely industry verticals that are going to see massive growth in the next 5 to 10 years. Moving on to, and really we're going to wrap up here soon, moving on to kind of revenue. I know that revenue is extremely important for a project's growth and progress. And with that said, I'd be curious to know what some ways Hedera generates revenue.
Yeah, so a lot of the revenue is going to be generated through that HBAR. So just the growth of users coming into the ecosystem. So when we talk about what's really important, it's really about how many users we can get into using Hedera and building on top of Hedera, and that's really how we measure growth and in turn revenue. So a couple of initiatives that I have been doing personally, as well as our team, is we have just been going to tons of events, inside events, and reaching out to all sorts of different people, all sorts of different projects that are in the Web 2 space, listening to feedback from other communities, and listening to ways that, or seeing ways that we've seen downfalls of other layer ones. And we're trying to kind of create these feedback loops internally, where we're able to think of ways in which we're able to put an envelope as far as innovative choices for increasing revenue, but also making sure that we're retaining our current user base and not really deteriorating that user base by neglecting any feedback they might be giving us. I guess would be my best answer.
That was a great answer, Cameron. And before I get to community questions here, I have a few hands up. Is there anything on your end, from the sales side, from the product side, and the stuff that you're working on that you're excited to share with us? Anything I haven't asked about that you want to give some insight to our community?
Just be on the lookout. Definitely this month, next month, upcoming months, because Hedera, we're going to have tons and tons of releases from the foundation side for projects that are going to be coming into the space. From NFT NYC consensus, we've met tons of projects that really cool, talented people that are going to be collaborating with a couple of groups. We have a couple of projects that are actually working together inside of our space that plan on releasing some cool announcements. So not really anything I haven't already covered, but just to be on the lookout for what's coming around the corner.
Okay, right on. And with that said, Cameron, I'm going to start calling on a few members of our audience. Let's start with Western Beast first.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Noah. Hey, Cameron. Okay.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
All right. Okay. Here's my first question. On your updated privacy policy, I saw that we can choose to remove certain by using on your updated privacy policy. I saw that we can choose to remove certain aspects of submitted personal information by using a delete request service. What information can I choose to delete that would not affect the information requirement standard of your organization, of Hedera?
Sorry. This is in reference to what exactly?
Okay, I saw the updated privacy policy that you set as a tag. Yes.
So I can't really speak too much on that. That's not really my vertical. I could an answer though.
Okay. Here's my next question. When making updates to the blockchain, can I tell Hedera who to allow to have access to this blockchain, based on the concept of the permissioned blockchain? And do I have to repeat each of those instructions, or will there be a setting where I can use previous set of instructions I already used?
You're asking if you're able to. So sorry, can you rephrase that maybe?
Okay. When making updates on the blockchain, can I tell Hedera who to allow to have access to the blockchain?
Oh, to Hashgraph?
Exactly.
As far as allowing who access?
Okay. You've already spoken on the permission blockchain. My next question is that I also see that you have predictable fees, the concept of predictable fees on your website. Will the concept of paying less in the higher tiers be better, because markers increase the market's liquidity? So will paying less and higher tiers apply to your platform?
No, this doesn't affect the platform now, because basically you're still paying these fees, but for a certain period of time, we have essentially relieved anyone from heightened gas. So and that's from the Hedera Governing Council's decision to do so by allocating X amount of HBAR to cover those fees. So we're still getting the fees from the network, and anytime transactions made, those fees are still occurring. But any gas fee be accrued are being covered essentially.
Oh, I get it now. That's very clear. All right, Cameron. Thanks for the answers to the questions. I'm really wishing you guys the best. Over to you, Noah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Western. Sayed, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Noah. Okay, so you mentioned that Hedera is governed by the Council of up to 39 leading global enterprises. So I was thinking that will Hedera governing council also have a community representative member in these ranks as well, so that community interest is also brought it into the council and as well as for the complete transparency.
Yeah, so the governing council, Swirlds Labs actually has a council seat. So a lot of the feedback from the community as far as any upgrades that should be made through like Hedera improvement proposals, Swirlds Labs usually pushes really hard to be the first mover on deciding and like speaking on maybe on behalf of other council members as to what the best decision might be. And then usually they have good support there. So I would say as far as getting feedback to the governing council members, that's done through Swirlds Labs.
Okay, got it. I understand that each member of the governing body is committed to the network innovation and stability, as mentioned on your website and white paper. Uh, but what if the group of members or individual is influencing the decision of other members during the votes? How will this issue be resolved?
Uh, uh, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm understanding. Could you, for the last part, so you said that
Yeah, I can repeat that. Yeah, so I was thinking that what if the group of member or individuals in the governing council are influencing the decision of the other members?
oh, like their influence votes?
Yes, yes, for the votes, for decisions, yes.
I think there might be something in play to mitigate that, but I don't really think there's too much of that because it all comes in unanimous decision.
Okay, okay, got it. Okay, so moving to my next question, I was wondering that if any developer has developed any decentralized application on your platform, how will ownership right work for the developer? I mean, will the developer also have the license for this application? And what if he wants to sell this application or D app or a game to any third-party client? How will the transfer of the ownership work?
Yeah, you would own the rights to your application in that case. So you would be able to transfer them no problem. It would
Okay, got it. Now,
yeah, it wouldn't be any different from like Ethereum.
understood, understood. Okay, final question. So I was going through white paper and it's a mention about fair time stamps on your white paper. So I want to understand that how will these stamps on each node work, and will they depend upon the clock of the system? And what if the miner is using the system whose clock is not correct or not coordinated? How will this issue be resolved?
So all the times they're all synced via the nodes. Like the nodes are all synced.
Okay, got it. But they will they depend on the miner's computer system clock, or will they won't depend on that?
No, 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 no.
Alrighty. I think those are all the
Yeah,
questions.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you cut out there, Sayed.
Yeah, yeah, I can repeat my final question. So just to be sure, that this time stamp will not depend upon the miner's system clock, right?
Yeah, no, no, no.
Okay, okay, got it. Thank you for clearing it up. Thank you so much. Over to you now.
Sweet. And get Aisha next.
Thank you, Noah. Okay, on your white paper, I have read about your file storage, and this file system allows users to store information. And this system is also being used by Mayo Clinic. I want to understand that will users who have access to the files on the Hedera file storage can edit the information on existing file, or one has to create the new file with a new hash for making changes?
You would have to create a new file.
And will these files can also contain images or videos? And what is maximum allowed size for a single file?
I would probably have to get back to you on that. But I can send you a message with the details on that. I don't have the answer in front of me right now.
Great. Thank you, Cameron. Aisha, did you have another question?
Yeah,
Go for
I have another question. It's mentioned on your white paper that Hedera technical and legal control ensure that the platform will not fork into a competing platforms, and cryptocurrencies and Hedera also have patent their technology. I was wondering that when your patent expires in 20 years, your protected intellectual property will be a part of public domain. How will you prevent the competing forks replicating your technology in long term?
I think long term the goal is at that point it would kind of be a community led effort, because I think at that point in the stage it's going to be completely decentralized and community owned with still with the governing council members deciding as to how the network would upgrade. But yeah, I don't see the intellectual property rights are sold to Hedera right now, and that's distributed among the governing council members. So for that to be dissolved would mean that that could be reinstated, or maybe ownership would be distributed in a different way. But I don't think we've discussed that far yet. If we have, I can also get you an answer on that.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Thank you for answering my questions.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, Aisha. Venice, go for it.
Thanks, Noah. Actually, while going through your website, I read some blogs of Hedera helping against the COVID-19. So I'm curious to know what were the difficulties your team faced when many hospitals were using it?
Using Hedera?
Yeah, while facing or helping against the COVID-19.
Yes, I believe that it was used and it was tested for medical at one point, as far as recording vaccines and finding out. So the same way as verifiable timestamps for supply chains, but just ensuring that patients were receiving vaccines. I think that might have been a thing. I'm not sure though. But if it probably was the consensus service, and it was just verifying the authenticity of vaccines, I believe.
Okay, assume a situation where I think nodes are not able to talk to each other, or some hacker or intruder puts a firewall between the nodes. Then how will you reach the consensus? Or don't you think it will not create the false consensus if some intruder puts a firewall or some other blockage between the nodes, so that they won't be able to talk to each other?
So I believe with the current way it's set up, this isn't possible, because yeah, like if you were setting up a firewall between the nodes, the way that ABFT works is if the message isn't being received, it just won't be sent.
Okay, and I also read that when users are in control of their personal information in Hedera, that whether to provide proof of identity or not. So I was wondering if some user don't want to provide his personal information, so will there be any kind of transactions to which these kind of users cannot interact?
Uh, so as far as a digital identity, your identity is not given on Hedera.
I was saying that if someone don't want to provide his personal information on Hedera, so
Sure.
will they be restricted from any kind of specific transactions, or they will be allowed to have any kind of transaction if they don't want to provide their personal information?
Yeah, no, you'd be completely able to do any withholding personal information on your digital identity is not going to cause you unless there's a certain condition that needs to be met for providing digital identity if you're using some type of decentralized application, for example. But yeah, there's nothing and inherently blocking you from using any transactions for withholding that information.
Okay, one last question from my side. I was also curious to know that are Hedera governing council members obligated to build and run applications on Hedera?
No, they're not. But we've actually incentivized governing council members with, I believe we gave them a small funds each, so that they could begin building on top of the network alongside using the network. And I believe a couple of teams have started utilizing those funds. But no, there is no obligation to build if you're a governing council member.
Okay, that's really great, and thank you so much for answering all my questions.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, Venice. We have one more audience member. It's G Banga. G Banga, try to keep it high level. Be cognizant of Cameron's time, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm just kind of curious that having the community groups and with that kind of stuff, because I see on the forms there is company. While filling the form, you have the name, you have the company name. I'm just kind of curious that what kind of company does it require to be part of the community member, and what type of decision exactly would community member be? Will the community be having on the project? What sort of what decision exactly?
I was trying to follow you there. So you're asking if are you asking, are you referring to governing council members, or are you referring to any community member?
Governing council member. Sorry, governing council member.
So you're asking the requirements to be a governing council member?
No, I see on the form, because I actually checked the website on the form
Yeah.
to fill tax of the name, stuff like that, and the company name. I'm just kind of curious. Do I need to own the company before I apply to be part of the member? And after being part of the member, what kind of decision are we going to participate on the project
So the
exactly?
governing council members, you have to, like, governing council members are essentially very, very limited. So it's not really, nobody's getting selected as governing council members. It's really large enterprises, large corporations that have some type of strategic advantage that might be beneficial to Hedera for partnering with them, or like public PR for that company. For like Ubisoft, for example, they just partnered with us as our most recent council member, and they actually haven't been building anything or released any information to anything they'll be building, but they did say that they're interested in learning or diving into blockchain technology more, distributed ledgers. And so over the next couple of years, their strategic position to be partnered with Hedera may provide them an opportunity to then onboard and provide a game at any given moment, because they've already secured that partnership. If that shines a little bit of light on like kind of those type of strategic partnerships that are being allocated to the governing council board.
Great. Well, Chibanga, thank you for the question. Cameron, thank you for the answer.
Sure.
I had one more question for you, Cameron. I think you might have covered it earlier in the AMA, but when can we expect Hedera to become a fully permissionless and public network?
I would probably estimate that by the end of this year, we will have the community nodes and the basically the ethos that we want for a fully permissionless network rolling out. And then if it's not rolled out by then, it'd probably be spring of 2023. That would be my guess at the current rate.
That's fair. Well, those are all the questions for me and our community members. Cameron, I really want to thank you for your time. I know that you're really busy doing all kinds of things for Hedera, and so we are really thankful that you came on and were able to educate our community about what you guys are building over there. Before you go, if there's anything else that you want to leave us with about Hedera, about the HBAR Foundation, or about your vision for the future, certainly go ahead and do so now. Otherwise, I wish you the best of luck and hope that we can stay in touch and maybe have you or someone else come on in the future and give us updates, maybe 6 months down the line.
Yeah, definitely. So if anyone's looking to build any projects on top of Hedera, or if anyone's interested in joining the ecosystem, you can apply for grants through the foundation. So we offer operational support, business development, marketing, and we do provide grants for teams looking to build on Hedera. So where you can find that at hbarfoundation.org, and then there's an application link. And then also just to follow like Twitter, Hedera Twitter, HBAR Foundation Twitter, and then hedera.com if you want more resources as far as Hedera.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cameron. And I went ahead, I shared the hbarfoundation.org website on our main channel, excuse me. Cameron, again, I want to thank you for being with us. That was great. Really enjoyed that AMA, and hopefully stay in touch in the future, and best of luck.
I really appreciate you guys having me on and giving me the chance to speak.
Right on, man. Right on. You're welcome anytime.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care, brother. And Whale Coin Talk community, remember that we are an educational channel. We do not give investment advice or anything of that sort. We are a podium for you to come and learn about various crypto and blockchain projects that are being built across the space. So always do your own research and invest what you're willing to lose. I'm going to cut the recording off here, and Acti is about to do a spin for us, so stay tuned for that.
Yep, I'm sharing my screen here with all the names, everybody that came on. Is it coming through already? I know sometimes it lags.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yep,
up. All right, let me shuffle it a bit, and we'll do, I believe, 4 winners that will get $50 each. So let me shuffle it and start spinning here. And I realize this might have been a little bit on the technical side, guys. So that's why we always provide all the official links. We try to keep it as high level as possible, but as you've probably heard, like some of the things that we've talked about tonight and have been explained are very technical. So if you want to learn more, make sure to head on to the official website. The documentation and the way it integrates and everything is right there. It's if you're more on the technical side, I'm sure you can make a lot more sense of it than we could probably explain. And having the huge ecosystem involved, yeah.